Is it bad for the league that the Portland Trailblazers are not trading Damian Lillard for, pennies on the dollar before training camp?
I mean, depends on what you mean by the league. If you mean sort of our piece of the league, maybe, although that's actually been pretty good because it's given people stuff to talk about all summer. So maybe just having maybe you want the issue, not the resolution, perhaps, if we're going to be cynical about it. No, I don't have a problem with him asking for a trade.
Definitely not.
Like, it's good to want things.
Yeah.
And, but, you mentioned the Supermax contract. That's literally what Portland owes him, is that money. And, maybe if they tried to well, we're going to send you to Charlotte, maybe then we can have a conversation about them not doing right by the player. But them doing right by the player doesn't mean do wrong by the organization. I mean, it's, in another context, we would talk about the management of the Blazers having a fiduciary duty to ownership. It's like, hey, we have, you own this team and we have a responsibility to make it as good a franchise as possible. And, jettisoning talent as a feel good gesture is not the way you go about doing that.
Yeah, and I mean it's boring because they are going through that, right? Like they didn't just do it. So because they didn't just do it, now it's led to what is essentially a boring stalemate where, nothing has really changed. He hasn't changed teams. The players that the Heat have available hasn't really changed. That's remained the exact same. It's just a matter of getting to the points and figuring out the leverage of when
I saw a guy make a behind the back pass in the World Cup though, so that I think that changes things dramatically. No, the part of the reason it's boring is these are some of some of the posturing on is just so non-credible. It's that's the key to winning a game of chicken. Two cars driving at each other. The guy who takes his steering wheel off and chucks it out the window first wins, and nobody believes that's how Lillard is going to act. So it's like, okay, yeah, you say these things, he's going to make things uncomfortable. Sure, a guy who's renowned for leadership and professionalism is going to suddenly become a team killing disruption.
Yeah, and also, by the way, I don't think Portland's doing anything on purpose. They're not delaying better offers. I think that they are rightfully waiting to see if they can get something better for a guy who has been a top 15 player in the NBA for a little while. I mean, this is a guy who should be more valuable than what we know, at least what's been reported, that's been offered by the Miami Heat. And, Rudy Gobert got a lot. And I don't think that they're expecting a Rudy Gobert haul because it just doesn't exist. But you got to come up with something a little bit better than Miami. And maybe they don't. Maybe no one does because he is 33 years old. He does have 4 years left on a giant contract. And maybe there are teams that say, hey, we don't know what the last 2 years of that deal is going to look like. Maybe that's going to cause us to struggle. So, your Brooklyn's, maybe even, I doubt the Knicks would be in on it, but we've heard that Boston might have had some interest, but you can understand why some teams might be holding back, Eric.
And speaking to the other side of it, the Heat don't just have to give away the things that they don't want to give away. There's a reason that, and this kind of goes to your point at the very beginning, Dave. 0 games have been played since this trade demand request, whatever you want to say, has occurred. So it's pretty hard for, the pieces involved to trade or to change all that much. The pieces that were going to be in this trade couldn't change all that much. I mean, obviously the draft could occur and you could see, if all of a sudden the Portland Trailblazers had the first pick in the draft. Okay, that would have changed things a little bit, but that didn't happen. So now everything is what it has been and what it's going to be. Probably until someone plays some games or someone gets into a training camp. We're still a month away from teams getting into training camp at the end of September or the start of October. So all of this just has to stay here because everyone has their own duty, right? They have to get as much as possible in a trade. The Heat have to try to give up as little as possible in a trade. Everyone has to do their duties and they're doing it. And that's just led to a standoff at this point.
Which is fine.
Right.
It's the only part I think our collective boredom with it is the fact that it's been just so like this sort of the staring, this is a public staring contest, which, yeah.